In our last video, we understand what is state management, and we have looked high level what is local state, passing props, context API, and Redux. Okay, so to better understand with an example, let's go first understanding with the props drilling. Okay, and how we overcome that issue with the help of context API. Okay, let's understand this. So this is my app.tsx file. So what I'm doing here is, this is one of my object. Okay, this object I need to pass to multiple child components. Okay, so this is my dashboard, the first child component. What I'm doing, I'm just passing this value. Okay, user. Then in my dashboard component inside, I am passing a value again, user. But observe, I just passing this value, but I'm not utilizing user in dashboard component. Similarly, I'm going to sidebar component, which is again a child component of dashboard, and here also I'm not using anything in user. Okay, similarly I'm passing this user back to employee, and in employee also finally I'm not using still user. Okay, and I'm repassing it to my profile. So there are 4 to 5 childs, and I'm keep passing the data from my parent. And finally, in a profile, basically I need this data from my top parent, which is my app.tsx, to display name, role, and my company. Okay, so you observed here, right, with an example, my need is only to pass this object from my app.tsx to only profile.tsx component. I don't want them to pass it to this dashboard, employee, and sidebar. Okay, so let me run this project. Okay, so it's already running, and if you see here, right, this is my React prop drilling example. So this is my first component, child component in a parent. This is my parent, that this is my first child component. Then inside that we have another child component, and then we have another one more child component, and finally I am having my profile component, where actually I need this data to display. Okay, so this is what the prop drilling is, because in I need data in one component, still I'm passing this unnecessarily, which is causing some performance issues to me. To overcome this issue, we use a context. Okay, so let's say the scenario, right, from this parent we are passing user, and we just need to use that user in a dashboard, right? Then it's okay to pass using a props, but it's too many nested childs, so this is not a good approach. Okay, so we understood what is prop drilling. Happens when data has to travel through multiple components that does not actually use it, and instead of manually passing data through every component, React introduced context API. Okay, so a project, in this project, right, what I did is simply I used this command, using the white. I created one React project with the name refactor demo, and I'm using a React TypeScript here. It will give me the complete project structure, and then default project structure, and then simply I did npm install and running this application in this port 5173. Okay, now what I did to create this project structure is simply like I created one components, which we can see here with something. This is a dashboard component, then inside dashboard I use the sidebar component, then employee and profile, some nested components I have created, and I'll explain you like how to implement the context in a React application. So in this project, to overcome prop drilling, I created 2 more folders with one is context and one is like a types. Okay, exactly same thing what we have done in this previously, like passing the data from parent to child. We do the same thing, but we will not pass unnecessarily now this data to each components which even does not need it, we will pass directly, we will use the value from context only wherever it is needed. Okay, so to do that one, what I have done is I created a one context folder, and inside my context folder there are two files. One is the userContext.ts and one is userProvider.tsx. So there are three steps we need to follow in a React to create a context. So first step, let's go to userContext.ts. What we have to do is, so React is providing as a method called createContext. So I created one constant which I'm exporting, and I need to use this method. And here if you see which kind of data it is, which type of data I want to share it, so that is what I already created one type file which is user.tss file. So my data type is like this. I have in my object this 4 properties with id as a number and all other as a string. Now in my user context, this is very simple. One method is what I did is just I created a create context declaring my type it, and by default the value is null. Okay, understood. Then next step is, once the create context is done, then we have to create a provider. Okay, so what is this provider, right? So if you see here, I created this user provider. In this user provider you can see one particular prop which is nothing but a children. Okay, and the type of this prop is nothing but it's a React node. Inside this, currently I hard coded this object with this initial values. Okay, Suresh Kumar, front-end team lead. Okay, some company XYZ. Okay, now then by using this user context which we already have, we are adding a provider, and we are to that provider what we are doing is simply we are passing the value. Which value it is? It is like this const value, we are passing it here. Got it? So and then once this provider is created, right, we are using this provider to our main.tsx file. So you know this is the initial file, right? When what we do in this initial file, from the index.html we are taking the root, and this initial file main.tsx, what it do, it takes that root from the get element by id and renders the component. So this is our first component which is app.tsx. On top of it, right, we have added a provider which we have recently created, user provider. This user provider, right, to this user provider what we are passing, this complete JSX, right, which is nothing but this app component. So this is what we can see here as a children of type React node. Okay, then simply to the children of it we are just passing the value user, so that because we have written in main.tsx file a wrapper on top of it, top of our app. Okay, and this have the value, this user provider have the values from the context, so that values will be easily available to each of the components. Okay, so got it. So two steps I have done now. One is like creating a context, then creating a provider, and in my main.tsx file I am wrapping with the provider my main component. It's clear up to now, right? Now I'm going back to my app.tsx file. Okay, in this app.tsx file what I will do, instead of passing this value, I don't need to pass this value now from here. Okay, I'm just let me delete it better, not an issue, and or I can comment it out. Okay, so I commented out here. So this is my app component. In this app component now, because as dashboard does not need anything, right, I'm simply removing it from the dashboard. Even in this dashboard I don't need any props. Got it? And even in my sidebar I am removing it, I don't need any props. Same thing I'm going to do it here, as I don't need any props, I'm just removing this again, even in employee I don't need this props. I'm removing it, and similarly here too. Okay, so I no need to pass anything. Even in my profile, as I'm going to use the context, I don't need this at all. Okay, now the thing comes is like we need in this profile only a value from the context. To get the value from the context, what we have to do is we have to use a method called useContext. Okay, so in my profile what I am going to do is, instead of passing as a props, what I did is I'm using the useContext method from the React. Okay, let me import it, and we already created this user context here in this context folder, right? Even I'm importing it now. This user, okay, this user is having the values for me. Okay, okay, so now instead of getting the value from the props, I'm getting the values from the context. Okay, if I need this value even in the dashboard component, simply I just write this piece of code, use context method I will use, and it will return me the value. So if you now I'm loading my application, you can simply see, still I can see this value. These values are coming from my context. Okay, so let me just try one more thing is user provider. I'm changing to XYZ 1 2 3. Let me put it string, sorry. So you can see this is immediately updated to my child. So one thing, this is giving one error, like because user is possibly null, right? So what you can do, I'm just putting it, if the value is not there, you can type it like a Ravi. Okay, so this is one way, or you can make it as an optional. Okay, or simply you can do better is like, let's say, see, once the user is available, then only we need to display it, right? So you can write some code here. If not user, then simply return it. Okay, so this is one which we are reading from the context. Hope it is very clear to you all. So we understood what is context now. So there are three steps for a context. One is we need to create a context. We create a context object using createContext method. Okay, this is the syntax for that one. Like any const, we are exporting that const, and createContext method from the React we are using, and we are declaring which kind of like object it is. Okay, then we need to create a provider, and that provider will have the value which we need to pass to our children's. Okay, so the user context what you have created with you need to add a provider with and pass the value which will be available to each children. Now finally the third thing is usage, right? What we will do is const user equal to use context method you have to use, it will return you the value. Okay, so this is all about the context, but context also will have some limitations. What limitations it have is, context is powerful, but it is not replacement of redux. It is powerful. Okay, we can share the data globally here, but it's not equivalent to redux. Okay, whenever the context value change, all consuming components will re-render. Let's say I'm using the context in out of this four, two of them, right? And whenever the user value is changed, company from XYZ to XYZ 1 to 3, right? All these three components will be re-rendered. It does not provide a built-in middleware, dev tools, and advanced debugging. So context is not coming up with any middleware. So we will understand in our next videos like what are the middleware. So for now this feature is not available in part of context, and we don't have any dev tools. Okay, in a Chrome extensions we have the dev tools with which is coming with the redux, but we don't have with context. And that's why library less redux and toolkit and just more preferred, right? So because of these limitations we are going with these libraries. So upcoming videos we are going to understand what is the redux, what is the rdt, what is justent, okay, and what is different then with context and redux. Thank you for watching the video.